Western Cape Mobility MEC Ricardo Mackenzie wrote an open letter on Wednesday to the Ministers of Transport and Home Affairs, stating the stationery shortage in the province has created a backlog. This resulted in licence discs and registration certificates not being issued. Mackenzie joins us for more insights. Thank you so much for joining us this Saturday evening. Now, how is the stationery shortage affecting the province of the Western Cape?
Thank you, and thank you for having me this Saturday evening. Can I just say, at the moment, it has not affected us to print as yet, but we are a week away from that massive problem. How it is affecting us at the moment as the Western Cape is we have ordered in. We are planning province. We have orders in since July of last year by the National Government Printing Works, which is Home Affairs, and the National Department of Transport has not been able to provide us with our orders that we have been ordering since July. Because we are a planning province, we've been able to keep it up for the last few months, but we are reaching now in the depth of our own orders, and this is why we're now launching this publicly, because our letters, our diplomacy has not worked.
Now, you say there's, in your statement, you've mentioned that there's a backlog of 750 boxes of forms from, I think, the 7th of July in 2023 to September the 21st of the same year. What are those figures looking like now? And in one of those boxes of 750 of them that we're talking about, how many forms are in that?
In one of those boxes, there are 2,000 forms, and each form is a form, for example, for your learner's license, your vehicle registration, your roadworthy certificates. Those are the forms that are in there, just to put a bit of reality. That means if you're going for your driver's license, if you're selling your vehicles, your learners, if you're selling your vehicle next week, if you don't get the stock, you are unable to get that vehicle in your name or unable to get your learner's license printed. And I think this is the reality also what has happened. And since we've gone public with this since Wednesday, suddenly they found some boxes on Friday morning, and we hope, as they promised, it will arrive on Monday. But this has been a big problem the last 7 months. We've written to them, and some letters to the National Minister I wrote myself, not even acknowledgement of receipt. And that is the critical situation we found ourselves in, and that's why we're now going public, because the diplomacy, the colleague-to-colleague letters has not worked, including a simple acknowledgement of receipt.
You're saying up until Friday then after you went public with this information, only then were you getting some sort of acknowledgement and movement in this process. Yeah. Are you insinuating that there would be something untoward? Do you smell a rat? Do you think this is suspicious or malicious?
I think this is, first of all, administrative to administration colleagues. The guys have been working together for decades. Doesn't matter who the administration is. And our orders has been lagging. And I certainly do feel uncomfortable that your colleague, which is the National Minister, don't even acknowledge receipt of the problem you've been identifying the last few months, since last year, July. And now we're at a critical situation. We are a week away from us not able to transfer cars, print documents. It's a massive economic problem to anyone owning a car or anyone that needs their learner's license. It's a severe potential embarrassment for us as the Western Cape government. And if people don't acknowledge receipt, a peer-to-peer letter to your colleague, it certainly raises suspicions to me. And since we've gone public, I've made the option to go public, wrote open letters to them, and on Friday they mysteriously found us hundreds of reams which they not sent to us, but not in our possession. Yes, I do believe in working with national government. You must have something in your possession. So on Monday, unless we have those in our possessions, we'll decide on the next step. But it has been certainly not an easy journey to get here. Months of ordering, no stock arrived, no clear answer, no acknowledgement of receipt on a simple email is just, it's a big cause for concern.
You mentioned that, of course it is an economic problem, but also assuming that it must be an administrative problem as well. When you're speaking to motorists as well in residents in your province, have they started expressing concern over this? Has it affected them directly yet?
Well, the first thing is affecting is our administrators. Our traffic officers in my meetings are raising concerns. How will they deal with people they stop next to the road? Am I going to have the excuse, well, actually, the forms is in Pretoria, That is the enforcement problem. It's a massive enforcement problem if we don't have this. Because the law requires you to have your driver's license on you, or your learner's license printed on you if you have a person in the car. These are simple actions that has a big potential enforcement problem. Because the traffic officer next to the road cannot say, or between you and him argue, well, the forms has not arrived, it's in Pretoria. The traffic officer's job is to enforce the law on the side of the road. And that is the bigger risk for all of us, including you as commuters, because you will have to argue with the traffic officer next to the road. The reason I don't have my learner's license printed is because the forms is not printed in Pretoria. That's not how you enforce the law. The law operates on appropriate documentation. And the position our national government is putting us is for those officers next to the road to have altercations with passengers next to the road, with drivers, which is not the intention of the law. And this is what we're trying to prevent by deciding to go in public. And it seemed to have worked, because on Friday morning, we received an email they're going to send us boxes. But that has not arrived yet. And until I have it in my possession on Monday, in my office, or go physically inspect it at our warehouse, I'm unable to confirm those details. But they've committed, they've sent it, but I have not physically seen it here in the Western Cape.
So MEC, this is more of a proactive approach that you're taking to ensure that this does happen.
It is a proactive approach. As I said, for months we've been dealing with a diplomacy channel, colleague-to-colleague document emails, colleague-to-colleague telephone calls. There's no clear answer that has come from our peers in Pretoria enforcing us to do this now. It is not how we work in the Western Cape, but unfortunately, given the critical situation that we're facing in a week's time, we are forced to go public with this, and the pressure has already worked by them sending some boxes on Friday, but I can only be more comfortable if I have it in my possession on Monday.
Is there any other way you could find a solution for this without using the national government printing works at all?
Unfortunately, at the moment, is can't. There's a function that must be devolved to provinces. Every other province in this country has the capacity to do this. Similarly, with the driver's license problem, as you know, they couldn't print driver's license last 2 years ago because the machine had to be fixed in Germany. It's the same problem we have. These are simple administrative functions that should be devolved to provinces and not sit at national government. And the current legislation, it unfortunately sits with national government. That's why we can't print it here in the Western Cape. And it's not only the Western Cape with the problem. Same problem are facing with other provinces, but given the times that we're in, they won't do this, but we are doing this. We cannot let the people in the Western Cape in a week's time have without this documentation, because the enforcement problem next to the road is going to become a very difficult situation when people argue next to the road, but my document is not with me, waiting for it to be printed in Pretoria, and we're preventing that. We're trying to be very proactive, and we have been. We have months and months of stock, letters back and forth, but we have depleted our own stock.
So should we find ourselves in that position, what will you be doing as the Western Cape government to give your motorists some leeway for those who will be affected by this crisis? I mean, you mentioned earlier as well, to have those kinds of conversations with a law enforcement officer on the side of the road is very difficult as well. Will there be communication to those law enforcement officials as well, so that they're more understanding when they stop a motorist who's now caught in the crossfire of this?
Well, we hope it doesn't happen, but we are certainly proactive. We are communicating with our top management team to make sure the message gets out to our officers, and certainly we'll ensure that they have the necessary and appropriate training on this particular matter, enhanced training, to prevent that conversations taking place next to the road, which, as you can imagine, won't be easy with different individuals, with different personalities in this country. So we are proactive on it, and that's part of what we're doing right now. And it seemed to have worked, because the national government indicated on Friday they have dispatched some boxes. But given that situation and the times that we're in, we can only be comfortable once those boxes are in our possession.
So you can assure motorists in your province that even if you don't get those boxes and the necessary resources that you need from national government, there will be a plan in place, and they do not have to deal with that daunting task of having to explain themselves for something that's entirely not their fault to a law enforcement official.
No, certainly we will put those plans in place. It's unfortunately, due to our colleagues at national government, a simple administrative function. It is not a technically difficult thing. You don't need to engineer to do this. print the boxes and send it to those provinces that order it. Simple functions that doesn't need technical skills. But we will ensure that our traffic officers, we have more than hundreds of them in Cape Town, in the Western Cape, we'll make sure that they are appropriately informed. But these things are preventable. They are preventable by simple national government printing works should do their job. The job is to print. That's all they have to do. Print these and send it to people that need it.
Well, we'll look forward to Monday and hearing feedback from you in terms of what happens with this story. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on News at Prime. That was Ricardo Mackenzie, who is the Western Cape Mobility MEC.